Okay, we're coming to you live from the International Wrecking Crew headquarters. I'm here with Greg Robbins, the conductor of the Ball State Symphony Orchestra, and we're here to let everybody know about the upcoming Ball State Symphony Orchestra program. So, Greg, thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting with our audience for a little bit. And why don't you start by just telling us when the concert is and then what's on the program?
So our upcoming concert is on November 7th, and that's going to be at 7:30 p.m. in Sursa Performance Hall here at Ball State University. So we would be very honored if you would attend this event. It would mean a lot to us.
Yes, and then so hopefully you all can join us in person, but if you can't, it will be live streamed for free, and we'll include a link so that you can participate that way also. So tell us what's on the program.
So it's a really exciting program, a lot of variety, and starting off with a piece by Silvestre Revueltas. It's called Itinerarios, which more or less translates to itinerary or to pathways, as I like to say. And in a lot of ways, this piece represents the theme of the year, which is planning for the future, all the different ways that that could look for you. And I love that it sort of explores different areas of Revueltas' compositional approach. He was an interesting guy. The piece is sort of inspired by the Spanish Civil War, and you can hear a lot of influences from his life, and it reflects a lot. It sort of reflects his own tumultuous development as a professional and as a performer. So we're excited to have that piece. And then we're moving to Johannes Brahms' Academic Festival Overture, written in 1881 to commemorate his acceptance of an honorary doctorate from University of Breslau. And that's a wonderful piece. It really allows the students to explore some very challenging stylistic areas. It's got a lot of beautiful textures and melodies, and everything we love about Brahms is contained in this piece.
And I know what else I know about that piece too.
Oh yeah?
That's all drinking songs.
That's right.
So I can get behind that.
That's right. So
and that's a real challenge to go from, the one sort of more modern style, and then immediately switch gears to the more late classical, early romantic style.
That's right. And that's the funny thing about Brahms, because he always kept his jokes close to the vest, and you could never tell if he was really making a joke or kind of leading you on. And so this is a real different side of Brahms than we're used to, than the serious sort of German romantic. We also get a little bit of college ruckus at the same time. So it's a great look for Brahms, and it's a great look for our orchestra.
Yes.
Our trumpets are performing a really classic and famous solo, and it's one of the drinking songs that they get to play. Who would have thought brass players playing a drinking song? I would never imagine.
We have experience.
Yeah.
And then the trumpets are playing that on rotary trumpet, obviously, so they can get that sort of experience in their life, preparation for the life as a professional in that way.
Yeah.
And so a really exciting piece. I remember the first time I played that piece was in an orchestra with my teacher, and that's another one of those pieces where you think you know how it goes, and then you're sitting in the orchestra, and then everything's happening around you. It's just so exciting. It's fun to play. It's fun to hear. Some great moments of music. Okay, and does that bring us to intermission?
That does, and hopefully you won't leave during intermission, because we have a very special dessert for everyone who sticks around. We've got Respighi's Pines of Rome,
Great piece.
which is just an amazing piece and a showcase for the entire orchestra. Full of bright, vivid colors, rhythms, and it's one of the biggest orchestras you'll ever see. Gigantic percussion section, offstage brass, extended woodwinds, and organ as well. So Sursa Hall is going to really be shaking on its foundations. And
perfectly suited hall for the piece, I think, because we have that concert organ that can really stand on its own. We have the space for the offstage brass, real theatrical, nice area for the offstage trumpet solo. The hall sounds great with all the color instruments, the English horn, the bass clarinet, and like you said, all the percussive elements. And yeah, so there ought to be at the end of all the scores, it should say automatic standing ovation, because that's one of those pieces where, at least for me, that's the sort of piece I know that if I ever get sick of playing that piece or get sick of hearing that piece, I know it's time to put the trumpet back in the case, close the case, go do something else, because it's so exciting. I remember the first time I heard that piece was a concert with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, and I think I've listened to the piece sort of parenthetically before, but I remember I got in there and I didn't know what I was fully in for. And then and I remember I remember seeing the principal trumpet getting off and walking off stage and thinking, where's that guy going? And then at the end when it got real big, I was not prepared for that, and that was one of the most dramatic and theatrical. I mean, it was so exciting, and I was so excited. I left that performance feeling like I was 10 feet tall. It was tremendous opportunity. And this is a great opportunity for the students too, because everybody gets something to do. Nobody gets left out. And in addition to the organ, there's the piano, there's the celeste, and just everybody has a really important part to play in the piece. What was your inspiration for the program?
Honestly, when I'm looking at programs for the year, the first thing I'm looking at is the students, and thinking about some areas that I can program for where they can have the opportunity to work on something new. The Brahms is always just an endless it's an endless area of development for string players in particular, because it has all the difficulty of Mozart and Beethoven, but then you have this added element of all the stylistic considerations that we want to bring in for Brahms as well. So it's a tough thing for that, and then I try to find music that just puts an exciting program together. I mean, we're orchestra musicians, and orchestra is a lot of fun. So I
Yes.
really like people to know about some of the greatest repertoire, some of the greatest literature ever written for instruments, for the concert stage, is for the orchestra. So I want the students at Ball State to have those amazing experiences playing it. And in fact, I played Respighi as a young musician in a youth orchestra, and your story was very relatable, because I wasn't prepared for what I had to do. I mean, I was playing the double bass at the time, and I had never even seen the word tacit before. So we started playing the first movement, and I was so confused. Wait a second, isn't there? So my stand partner tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Greg, you don't play in this movement." I said, "Okay, thank you." So you're going to learn a lot with this piece, with the Respighi, that is. And then Revueltas, I think, is just an essential composer for people to know. People think of Carlos Chavez as sort of the face of Mexican concert music in the early 20th century. But Revueltas is over there writing some really interesting stuff, and Chavez and Aaron Copland both thought very highly of his music. And so you always want to explore music from different regions, different continents, different time periods. And so I try to have variety be an important part of my approach too, as a programmer.
That's great. So what are some of the things that you're most excited about as the maybe some exciting elements or the exciting moments as the program goes on?
Well, the first thing I'm thinking about is just the first entrance of the organ in the last movement of the Respighi. You're just a little bit about the music. It's meant to highlight different parts of Rome, different Roman pines, the pines of Rome. It's literally about pine trees. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, it's meant to evoke an image of the Roman army marching. And it starts with this lugubrious, sort of creepy movement. You can hear the machines, the squeaking of the wheels and everything. And then finally, it's almost like the whole orchestra turns the corner and focuses on the destination. And everything just starts to shimmer and brighten up, and the sound of the organ and the orchestra starts to expand. And if you're going to be in the audience, you're going to start just hanging on to your chair. You're going to be really white-knuckling through this piece. So I'm really stoked for that.
And that's the last movement.
That's the last
Pines of the Appian Way.
Yeah.
And
Pines of the Appian Way.
yeah, and I remember, like on a personal note, I was involved with a opera situation in Italy for a few years, a few summers, and the first summer that we were there, we spent probably a week in Rome, and these are four specific places
Yes.
in Rome, so it's not like theoretical like what it could be. They're very specific places, and they're still there. You can go to all four spots, and the catacombs, the early Christian catacombs, are on the same road as the Pines of the Appian Way. So that's a 2-for-1. And anyway, I remember going to all those spots, and it sort of made I think just the experience a lot more real, because you're no longer having to use your imagination. You can see exactly, where those spots are. So that's the big finish, is that the Pines of the Appian Way, and that great big entrance of the organ and all the instruments. It's just this great big. It's not a particularly long movement, but it's just one big crescendo. So we start pretty quietly, and then slowly add, and pretty soon it's everything but the kitchen sink. So it's an exciting moment. Okay, what else?
So I'm also thinking about the Brahms Academic Festival Overture, and there's so many beautiful Brahms moments in it. It's like a greatest hits of Brahms. He wrote the piece to showcase this orchestra, and it was essentially it was what he did in return for receiving this honorary doctorate. So in a way, it's meant to mimic the academic style of composition, and contrast that with a more bucolic or fun-loving style where you have the drinking song. So you have the sort of highbrow and lowbrow in the same piece of music. It also showcases our lovely woodwind section, and you're going to hear some beautiful classic clarinet and flute textures, and it reminds me a lot of some of his earlier serenades in that respect. So the Brahms is just it's one of my favorite pieces.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think it's also one of his bigger orchestras.
It is the biggest orchestra Brahms ever wrote for.
Yeah, 3 trumpets.
3 trumpets, percussion section with cymbals and bass drum and timpani. You got contrabassoon, tuba, rare for Brahms.
3 trombones.
3 trombones. Easily the biggest orchestra that Brahms ever
Typically, Brahms, especially with regard to trumpet, if there are trumpets, there's 2 trumpets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this case, there's 3, and which to our audiences these days may not seem like, like what's the big deal? But I think it was a big deal, because if you're talking about the orchestration and the voicing, there's a lot of now overlap with the trumpets and the trombones.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that, have that third trumpet there is if you're thinking about it in context, was, I think, a bigger deal than we consider it to be now. So
absolutely. That was like a deliberate choice, right, by Brahms to stick to the classical traditional approach, where at the same time in his own life he was seeing offshoots of the German symphonic tradition embrace much bigger, much more bold visions for the orchestra. And so he, as a reaction to that, sort of clasped onto those classical structures and sought to do as much as he could with those.
Because Wagner was composing at the same time.
That's right.
So they were going for different ideas.
Sure. Every city in Germany had its Wagner society and its Brahms society, and they were not friends. So it's funny to think about this rivalry back then.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
And then, so this is a really exciting program, a great opportunity for the students, a great opportunity for our audiences here locally, and to be able to check that out on the live stream. So once again, this concert is on November the 7th. It's a 7:30 concert. This is a ticketed event, so I think the best thing to do would be to arrive a little early so that you can get a ticket, or get a ticket in advance, and you can do that. And I think you can also get tickets online, and then for those that are maybe a little bit too far away, then we'll have a link to the live stream where you can check that out, and that would be for free. That's not behind a paywall or anything. So, well, Greg, thanks for talking about this, and thank you all for listening to us talk about this upcoming Ball State Symphony Orchestra concert. We hope to see you at that concert and at many more concerts to come.